was born in London, and at age 10 my family emigrated and took us all to Australia. So I've been living in Australia for the past 58 years. Okay, so my general health and a little bit of background through the years: a couple of hernia repairs, nothing major. Then in 2014, I took a couple of weeks off work as I needed shoulder surgery. 10 days after the shoulder surgery, I had a retina tear happen and I needed surgery to have that repaired. And at the time, I lost my sight then for around about a month, because I'm actually almost blind in my right eye, and the tear happened in the left eye. So that was a bit traumatic, but as the months went on there, my sight came back somewhat, and at the 3-month mark I was able to get the first of many pairs of glasses, which helped my sight, but that actually took a few years to get back to a really acceptable level. And then I think it was 3 months after I had the retina tear repaired, I went to see my grandson at his sports day, and while I was there, I started having, one at a time, my fingers all went numb, and it was pretty weird, but I didn't really think much of it, and so I just kind of like passed it over. And then, that was about, I don't know when that was, September, I think it was. Didn't really think anything of it. And then sometime later, and again, the memory, I don't remember all these dates and how long ago it was and everything. But anyway, so then I was shopping with my husband in the supermarket, and I just felt wrong. I can't explain it. I started having funny feelings in my fingers, but now it sort of spread up my neck, but only minutely, like nothing overly. And I turned to my husband, and what I wanted to say to him was like, if there's something goes wrong with me, like get me an ambulance. And he was just staring at me, and I thought, oh, what? So I tried to say it again, and then I realized that my tongue and my speech had all gone. And so I went to the emergency department at the hospital, and they looked me over, they did me a scan, they thought maybe it was a t.i.a, and I don't even think that I made it out of the emergency room. I think I didn't get put in overnight. I don't think I did. But what they did was they discharged me and said that they would send me an appointment for the stroke clinic as a follow-up. Well, that appointment never came, and then at Christmas time I was in a different area and it happened again, and this time they called an ambulance and I went to a different hospital, and I was actually admitted into that hospital. Now so that was really the first kind of symptom that I had, probably, that now relates to C.A.A, but at the time, the neurologist I had, he didn't think it was a t.i.a, and he did many, many tests, but he couldn't really put a name to it. So from 2014 and 2018, I was having what I guess we call episodes now, but they didn't last long. And by the time, when I called an ambulance, by the time the ambulance got here, everything, had resolved itself. So in 2018, I actually was discharged from the neurologist because the symptoms had really calmed down, and by 2018 I wasn't actually having any symptoms anyway. So I sort of, as time went by, you kind of, I don't know, you just kind of think about it and think that it's, it's all it's all sort of finished. Then in 2018, I was diagnosed with Claudia Aquina, and what that is, it's a severe sort of severe case, I think you might call that, of spinal stenosis, but it's one that it can interrupt your bowel and your bladder, and that could be very serious. And so I was taken in for emergency surgery for that, of which I recovered. Then, oh my God, then everything started going wrong really from 2014 to sort of when I did eventually get diagnosed. I'm just trying to think then what sort of happened then. So I had the surgery, the back surgery, and then I needed my gallbladder out, and it was just one thing after another thing. However, everything seemed to calm down then. 2018 came and went, 2019 came and went, and I wasn't really thinking too much about anything. And then 2020, I woke up and I had the same symptoms, and this time, where it had always been on the right side, it was now on the left side. And to say the least, I was gutted. And even more so worried because, somewhere along the line, I think I'd been told that, if you have symptoms on one side, then sometimes there's like an interference of some kind with your brain on the opposite side. So now, of course, this was on the opposite side. So I was not a happy girl. But that was May 2020. And then in June 2020 is when I was actually diagnosed. So that's just a little bit of a synopsis of my medical history. I hope that kind of answered your question of what my general health has been over the years. What was I like before my first seizure? Nothing too adventurous. I was strong, an independent woman, I think. At least that's how I saw myself. A bit of a know-it-all and a control freak, I will admit. I enjoyed catching up with my family and my friends and babysitting my grandchildren. I really enjoyed doing that. What else? I enjoyed working. I was an administration assistant and I worked in a healthcare clinic. I enjoyed researching various family trees, and I'd spend endless hours on the internet just kind of doing that. I really enjoyed going on our yearly holidays with my husband overseas. We usually like to go to Thailand, so that was really good. What else? Oh, I really love singing karaoke. I can't sing, but I really love singing karaoke. But I was a pretty normal person, just living my life, saving all year to go on our holiday, loving my family, just hanging out with the grandchildren. My husband was working, and it was a pretty good life, I must say. Okay, so things changed. Things really changed after my first seizure in 2014, and because it wasn't diagnosed, I think there was no answers. So initially in 2014, I just felt that I was so afraid I was just going to have a stroke. And not just have a stroke, but I was just going to fall down, suddenly just fall down and die, and just drop down dead. And I just could not shake off that feeling. I wouldn't babysit my grandchildren anymore unless my husband was home with me. I wouldn't drive the car with anybody in the car. I sort of had this mentality that if I was going to die, I wasn't taking anybody with me. So that was my mentality then. My mental health started to decline and go into a spiral, and I became very depressed. So I I don't think I was ever really depressed. I think I did have a bit of anxiety prior, but I just like totally lost control, found it very hard to cope. And I'd had a lot of health issues all in sort of one go from 2000. The whole of 2014 was just a disastrous time for me, and I didn't know how to cope. Honestly, the only other operation I'd ever had was my tonsils out when I was 6, and a couple of hernia repairs, and before all this, and that was about it. I was having trouble with my my employer because I was having to go off work, and they weren't sympathetic or anything like that. And so it all sort of just piled up. But the most thing was the depression, anxiety, and not wanting to. I didn't even want to have my grandchildren around me because I was so scared that I didn't want them to see anything that was about to, to to be there if something happened to me. I was under an organisation called the Royal Society for the Blind who was going to help me with some equipment so I could go back to work, but my work just gave me a hard time, and in the end my husband just said that it was up to me, but he didn't think that I was ready to go back, and he would prefer if I stayed home and just worked on myself. So we did that. So I quit, and lucky because my husband did have a full-time job, so that made it a bit easier to make that decision. What else happened? I lost all my confidence. I just withdrew into myself. My depression got just so bad, and I understand depression. I never until then really found out what it was like, and but as times went by, time went by, and I had the seizures and that for a few years, and then after a while they declined, and you sort of start to think that you perhaps haven't got it, that perhaps whatever it was is not going to show its ugly head. I don't know if you can see me because it's really sunny out here. But yeah, so from 2014 to 2018 was I think they were almost worse years than once I found out that I had C.A.A. So when was I diagnosed? Well, after thinking for a long time, but perhaps I was free. I woke up one morning in 2020, in May 2020, and there was the telltale signs again, and I was not very happy. There was those telltale signs of numbness, tingling, spreading, crawling up my arms, my neck, my face, but this time on my left side. In the past, it was always on my right side. So off we trotted. We didn't even bother to ring an ambulance. Off we trotted to the emergency room, once again to answer a million questions. So after all the questions, I was admitted into my very own room. I didn't know how long that was going to be for. So I was admitted. The episodes, which I call them now, which we didn't know what they were then, continued. I had a scan. I was kept in for a couple of days, told that I probably had t.i.a, was having a t.i.a. And after a couple of days, I was allowed to go home. And that was the end of May. And right at the beginning of June, I was out gardening, and suddenly I felt like I was in two worlds. In one world, I was gardening, and I was at my house with my husband out the front yard. But in the other world, and I can't remember what I was doing, but I was somewhere else completely. And I was very confused, and I can remember thinking, I don't know which world I'm supposed to be in. I called my husband and I sort of explained, which I didn't really get it, but that's okay. And once again, we went to the hospital. We were admitted, more scans, and I think it was the second or third day I was there. It was the group of doctors that gather around your bed to give you, the God Almighty diagnosis. I can't remember a lot of what they said word for word. And again, the shock just sort of set in, but we can remember, my husband was there, we can remember him saying, you have cerebral amyloid angiopathy, something about it being incurable. There's a chance you'll get dementia. It's called the ugly disease. Personality changes. I made the mistake of asking lifespan, because the way he was talking, it's not curable. Lifespan, 10 years, give or take, 2 years. Go off, live your best life. I can't really remember much else, and I do remember him saying, do you understand what I'm saying? And I looked at my husband, and my husband looked at me, and we shook our head and said, yes. But we didn't get it. We didn't know what they were talking about. When they were leaving, we did ask one of them to please write down the name of it, and we did ask, we remember them saying no blood thinners, and we did ask them about fish oil tablets, and they told us no, because it's a blood thinner. And that was the start. We did assume that we could ask more questions when we had our follow-up appointment, which I don't know why we thought we were going to get one. I suppose when you get diagnosed with some brain disease, that you would kind of expect to have a follow-up, which we never got a follow-up. It's been 3 years and we never got called back for a follow-up. I had to actually get an appointment, which didn't go well, but you can see that in another video. But that's really how the diagnosis went in 2020. It was just, everything was shock. It just was crazy. And I thought my life had changed significantly when I first got those kind of symptoms in 2014. But to hear now that maybe it's 10 years plus, give or take, too, and knowing that at that stage I'd already had those symptoms on and off for 6 years, and it was 10 years, give or take 2 years from diagnosis. My symptoms started like 6 years ago. When did my clock start ticking? So it's not been easy, as all of you guys would know. You don't know what to do. You're looking for guidance, which never came. You're not supposed to Google anything, but we did. And thank goodness we did. Thank goodness we joined Facebook pages with very knowledgeable people. But a lot of it is a blur now. A lot of it mixes in with the information I've deemed from other people, definitely not from the medical fraternity. I think we just realized then we were just going to have to get on with it. And all the fears I had that, I wasn't going to live a long life was confirmed. And I mean, when you Google it, oh my God, it's not even sugar-coated, is it? It's just, it is what it is. So that's how it happened. May 2020 and diagnosed June 2020. And here we are, 2023, still waiting for my appointment. What can you do? Just get up each and every morning and keep going. Okay, so I do have some family members that know, some sisters and brothers, they know. I haven't told my children fully. They range from 34 to 44 years old. When I was diagnosed in 2020, my daughter, who's the middle child, was adamant she wanted to know the name of what was wrong with me. And we did tell her, knowing that she would Google it. And apparently she got her two brothers together and told them what it said on Google. But we've never discussed it since. I almost feel like the two brothers think she was overreacting. And so I think they know, but I think because I'm not really showing any signs and I haven't really discussed it with them, I think it just sort of gets swept under the carpet. I'm talking a little bit more at the moment with them, simply because it is so obvious that my memory has changed and it isn't the same. So I do talk to them a bit about trying to get them to understand that, if I repeat a question to you, it's because I really don't remember asking you it before. Of course, I haven't told my grandchildren who, the oldest is like 27, but no, I mean, I just can't find the words. I don't know what I would say. I don't think I could say anything to my children without crying, and I can't find the words. However, having said all that, when I look at the symptoms or the changes that I feel like I've gone through in the last, year and year and a half, and then I do look at the markers for vascular dementia, I can relate some of them to vascular dementia. And so I've decided, because I'm going to see my original neurologist in about a week's time, so I have decided that, and he's a vascular dementia specialist as well. So I think if it appears that I might have onset whatever, but then that will be my trigger to sit them down and tell them. I won't let them go any further than this. And if I haven't, I don't know, we'll have to see. I mean, I just can't. I just cannot find a way, to tell them. But as I say, my sisters and my brothers know, and my brothers-in-laws and sisters-in-laws, and I can't talk to them really because each one of them have got their own life-changing diagnosis of something, and I don't know how you go about doing that. I'm not a greedy person. I don't feel like I've got wishes for the future. I I certainly believe I have a future. I certainly don't think that tomorrow is going to be my last day. What do I wish for myself? I wish for strength. I wish to be brave. I have totally lost control of what's happening within my head, within my body. I am, because one thing I haven't lost, I'm still a control freak. But that's hard because I don't have control of those medical things. But I have got control of what I do and put in place. I have since the start of 2020, I have got down and got, different, my funeral plan, what songs I want, who's getting my jewelry. I've been out and bought jewelry for my grandchildren and chains and jewelry for my grandchildren. I hope for the future that if anything happens to me, that it does not alter the lives of my children or my grandchildren in any way. That the trajectory that they're on at the moment with their life remains the same or better. That the sadness that this will bring will be short-lived for them, and that my passing does not alter their futures in any way as it can do. And that's one thing I don't want. What I wish for my husband, I wish my husband to have a very, very long life, to live life to the fullest. To not grieve very long. And I know he will. A couple of years ago, my husband bought me a birthday card with the words on it. I'm going to read it because I always mumble them up. You will forever be my always. And I want him to know that there has never been a time that I've ever doubted that. I want him just to move forward and stay happy and make people laugh like he always does. And to continue to love our children and our grandchildren as he always has. That's really all I wish for. I would like a long life, if that's possible. But I would like a long, healthy life. I don't want to be locked in dementia or anything like that. But we can't choose our wishes, can we? We can't make things come true that is just not possible. I want a long life. If I can have a healthy life, that would be amazing. And I want that. I got some stuff written here. I would like my children to know that they are the greatest gifts I was ever given. And for them to continue to be great role models for their children and show their children how to roll with the punches. That's what I would like my children to know. They won't ever see these videos, so they won't know, but that is, I want to be brave and I want to be strong. And I can do that right now. I think that's about all I got for this question. What do I wish for the future? Exactly what I just said. Exactly what I just said.